Apart from DLCs, there aren't many chances to gain more Elden Ring lore apart from the current content in the game. However, there are still opportunities to learn new information or see already known information in another light outside of the game. A book publisher called Future Press released a pair of guidebooks for Elden Ring. These books contain every game information in a structured format, as well as tips and tricks on how to traverse the lands between. While certainly useful, I didn't purchase them for guidance, but for two reasons. First off, to add them to my collection of Soulsborne books, and second of all, to learn any new lore detail which might have been added as a bonus to the book. And boy! There's a huge lore nugget in this book which I want to share with you all. The information in question is a timeline of key events that happened before the start of the game. And without wanting to drag things out, here's the content. In this chapter, you will find a brief history of the lands between. As an exhaustive analysis of Elden Ring's lore would fill an encyclopedia purely on its own merit, the information presented herein serves simply to introduce the setting and major characters in a concise, practical manner. Each of the following topics summarizes a key portion of the game's backstory leading up to the present time and the beginning of your journey as a tarnished champion. Together, they provide basic insight and clear context for the current state of the world, your character's potential motivations, and the stakes of your decisions as you proceed. During the earliest period of history, all life originated from the Crucible, the primordial form of the Earth Tree within which the aspects of every living creature were merged together. The Crucible's primal vital energies gave rise to new species with every imaginable combination of traits: amphibian, avian, reptilian, mammalian, and countless others besides. The lands were dominated by beasts who had gained intelligence, as well as the ancient dragons whom they served. Dragonlord Placidusax is said to have presided over this era as the first Elden Lord long before the establishment of the Golden Order. The fledgling planet was not alone in the vast expanse of the cosmos, and before long, a host of other gods and fell creatures of the starry void took notice of its existence, exerting varying degrees of influence over the young planet and its civilizations. Of these entities, the Greater Will played the most direct and significant role in shaping the New World and is said to have sent a golden star to lands between, bearing a beast which was the living incarnation of order and would later become the Elden Ring. To spread its teachings and cement its control over the populace, the Greater Will relied on a cadre of bizarre hand-like creatures known collectively as the Fingers, which served as both its missionaries and its enforcers. After a long and brutal series of conflicts, this led to the establishment of a theocracy dedicated to the Golden Order, a system of absolute laws embodied by the Earth Tree and sustained through the Elden Ring's power. The Golden Order was led by Queen Marika, a member of the Numen race who served as both the theocracy's head of government and its patron goddess. Her consort Godfrey, the first Elden Lord ordained by the Greater Will under the new regime and only second in history after Dragonlord Placidusax, won battle after battle on her behalf, and the victory of his forces in the war against the Giants brought an end to the threat of the Giants' flame, paving the way for Marika to establish the Age of the Earth Tree. This era was marked by great prosperity, bounty, and stability. The Elden Ring had rewritten the very laws of nature, confining destined death and enabling the souls of departed to reincarnate by returning to the Earth Tree through its roots, while blessings rained down like tears upon the living. The Age of Plenty was not to last, however, and before long, the fickle Marika shared the Elden Ring by her own hand, upending the Golden Order and throwing the very foundations of existence into disarray. The Age of the Earth Tree came to an end when Rani the Witch, formerly an Empyrean chosen by the Fingers as a candidate to succeed Queen Marika, rebelled against the Golden Order and orchestrated the murder of the demigod Godwyn, using a stolen fragment of the Forbidden Rune of Death, then vanished without a trace. This event destabilized the theocracy and ultimately led to Queen Marika shattering the Elden Ring, an act of sacrilege for which she was subsequently confined within the Erdtree by the Greater Will and its vassal fingers. The vacuum of power left in the wake of Marika's imprisonment was filled by the remnants of her lineage, each vying for possession of the Elden Ring's scattered shards in a long and brutal war which later became known as the Shattering. For all the blood spilled during this conflict, however, not a single victor emerged to claim the throne, and the shard-bearing belligerents were condemned by the Greater Will. Desperate, their fingers turned to the tarnished, ordinary mortals fallen from grace, in hopes that a worthy successor for Queen Marika might be found among their ranks. Extended the guidance of grace once more, tarnished flocked to Round Table Hall, drawn by the finger's wisdom and the great duty imposed upon them in the name of the Golden Order. The methods employed by the two fingers to preserve the fragmented laws of nature and compel cooperation by the tarnished were less than subtle, and the Greater Will made stark examples of any who opposed it or existed outside the bounds of its order. Over time, however, the fingers' power and influence began to wane, and their inability to effectively mitigate the fallout from the Elden Ring's destruction earned them ever more skeptics, not to mention an increasing number of genuinely dangerous enemies. Yet even as life itself lies in shambles, so too does a glimmer of hope endure, and where the Greater Will and its vassals have failed, a tarnished may still succeed. Many possible solutions lie ahead, and once you've overcome the many trials on the path to lordship, it will be up to you to choose whichever you deem most fitting. Now, one of the most interesting new details we learn is that the Lands Between existed before the arrival of any outer god. As we have seen, they influenced and shaped the Lands Between however they wanted, while disregarding the existing primordial ways and enforcing their wills on the land, making them effectively conquerors of the Lands Between. This fact then also raises the question of the actual nature of the Crucible. So far, we have only known that it was a primordial energy of some sort, but now we have learned that it effectively governed life in the Lands Between and even possessed the power to give intelligence to beasts. This then raises the question whether the Crucible was actually the very first god that originated from the Lands Between. I mean, being just a simple energy source would be too weird. Instead, it makes more sense that the Crucible was a god at the center of a religion, with the primordial inhabitants of the Lands Between as its worshippers. Furthermore, with the Crucible being a god, this would then answer another question in regards to the identity of Placidus's god, because this would explain how Placidus's god was fled, since the Greater Will essentially overtook as the next primary god in the Lands Between. Apart from its actions to the Crucible, I plan to address the nature of the Greater Will in a separate video, so subscribe if you want to hear my thoughts on this matter. Next to the nature of the Greater Will, however, we also learn something about the nature of Marika as well, especially in regards to what could have motivated her to shatter the Elden Ring and what the trigger herefore was. The trigger being Ranni's Night of the Black Knives, where she assassinated Godwyn and rid herself of her corporeal flesh. Yet, we still don't get any more hints to the identity of Ranni's secret mentor, nor why Ranni chose Godwyn to die as the first demigod. To spite Marika, the head of the Golden Order, which Ranni learned to hate, is a possible motive, but this will likely be a permanent point of speculation. Regardless, these were the most interesting new insights we gained into the lore of the game. And with that, I want to make a cut here and discuss these points, as well as other points in separate videos. I certainly gained more knowledge from the Book of Knowledge, pun intended, and I hope you guys did as well. So, if you're interested to go down the lore rabbit hole with me, then subscribe and also try to get your hands on these two books. They are definitely worth the money for the insight you can gain and overall a nice collectible. So, until next time, ciao!